Making a stadium here in Ybor a success would likely require a few changes. One obvious one, of course, is parking, but the other one is likely public transportation. And you can see evidence of that right now this morning. You can see one bullet hole going into the trunk of the car, even hitting the antenna right off the top. Yeah, and they're going to have a lot more to clean up, unfortunately, again this morning here in Siesta Key. Take a look. What looks to be hundreds, maybe thousands more dead fish washing ashore overnight. Basically every single morning. You can see out here they've done a pretty good job so far cleaning up many of the dead fish. Some estimates say $800 million. So the big question is, how much are we, the taxpayers and the fans, going to have to pay for that? She seems to have at least been aware that there could have been tape and it could have been recorded. Yeah. So ultimately what this comes down to is, did Hulk Hogan know? And did she kind of drag him into this? Did he knowingly go into this? And I think that's where this really is really why the defense is going after her character and bringing her down that way.
Yeah, they have to.
Now that was a failed hacking attempt, but election officials here say they are more ready than they were back in 2016. The people that work in this building getting special cybersecurity training ahead of today's election. It has gotten a lot worse since you went back downstairs. The wind, the rain really picking up just in the past half an hour. Monday, during the flood, this entire road was impassable, and that meant people who were here couldn't get out. See some of that emotion here in this small memorial for Marquise McLaughlin at the store that he went into last week to get snacks for his family, and he died moments later. We're in rush hour traffic right now, but a new program about to be launched could make the traffic that we're looking at to show what happens if a car runs into somebody who's maybe just not paying attention because they're on their cell phone. As you can see, the car stopped with plenty of room to spare. What they did see, though, in some cases is a woman and a little girl go into the Hillsborough River. Private property fences like this might soon be extended all the way down to a high tide mark. Two pet owners believe that somebody took some wet pet food, contaminated it with some over-the-counter medicine, and from this alley threw this contaminated pet food into their backyards, poisoning their dogs. Estimated $6 million to create 46 new jobs. And I asked the governor today how he expects the state to pay for it. Here was his answer. $55,000 a year joint. You're also going to see a 3% decrease in your taxes to sneak quickly from Florida Avenue down that way down to Hillsborough Avenue at the end of the road. So these are going to be the new theater seats. I've tried them out. They're actually pretty comfortable. They've even got cup holders now. As for the old seats, even though a lot of people didn't like them, Schiller's is actually going to be selling these. Well, these divers tell me that there are so many unseen dangers when it comes to murky water like this. That's why they usually go through pages and pages of safety checklists before they would ever get in water. Even in an emergency, they tell me they would never just jump right into this kind of water. We are on Interstate 10 on the road to Tallahassee for something called the Enough is Enough rally. And we got a whole bunch of teachers from Polk County on not just one, but 3 buses on the way to this rally. One of them is this Spook Hill Elementary School teacher, Susan, who's with me now. Susan, I know you were going around asking how long everybody else has been a teacher. Turned out you had been a teacher longer than anyone, so maybe you know better than a lot of people. How has testing, and I know this is a big issue to you, how has testing changed the way you as a teacher have to work in the classroom?
I'm not as good as a teacher as I used to be.
That must hurt to say.
It's very sad.
We're back here today at Advanced Environmental Labs in Tampa to test some water from the Boca Ciega Bay. We dropped the water off yesterday. We are back today to get those results to find out if there's any dangerous levels of bacteria in the water. We got some good news and some bad news.
This sample here has E. coli present because it's fluorescing in the black light, and this one that is not glowing. So there's definitely E. coli available.
Dale Uvino of Advanced Environmental Labs points out not all E. coli strands are dangerous. This one test won't reveal how much E. coli is in the water.
You don't want to be swimming, ingesting anything that has E. coli in it, of course. It's hard to say if it's a dangerous strain, but if there's E. coli, there could be other things present.
By other things, Uvino means more bacteria or even viruses. Now, the other test done by the lab delivered some good news. They found very little fecal bacteria in the sample, much less, in fact, than other bodies of water in our area.
When we test rivers and ponds for fecal, it's always very high.
We pulled this sample from the Boca Ciega Bay back on Wednesday, just a day after the diluted sewage was intentionally put into the bay. The St. Pete Beach Public Works Director tells me it was a better option than having that sewage explode out into the street when the pipe system flooded on Monday during the storm.
It's a lose-lose, so what we did is we selected to discharge in a controlled manner so that we could measure the volumes, measure the contamination, and report that.
So Thursday morning, St. Pete police shut down 2 unlicensed facilities. Then Thursday night, they shut down 2 more, including this one. You can see the sign from the city of St. Pete saying it didn't have running water. The people living here say their disability checks were going to a company called Tampa Bay Behavioral Health and a man named Marcus Anderson. You just came to St. Pete Police. What did you bring them? What did you want them to see?
Well, today I brought them proof that Marcus was receiving my son's disability check.
Nicole Ford was shocked to find out what those disability checks were paying for. She says her son's home had moldy mattresses and holes in the walls and didn't have running water. There was no staff there at all.
There was nothing there.
She also brought the contract with Tampa Bay Behavioral Health to the police station on Friday.
He was supposed to provide room and board, 3 meals a day, housekeeping services, which includes cleaning of residents' rooms and provision.
Marcus Anderson did not answer the door when we visited his St. Pete home today. State records show his licenses to operate assisted living facilities were revoked by the state a few months ago after he was arrested for exploiting a disabled person.
You're going to find in the investigation that a lot of these individuals, the reason they were placed where they were placed is it was an individual on their own making their decisions. And that's tough. And that's a tough way to go.
Joseph Bensmian is a licensed home health care provider here in St. Pete. He says families need to ask 3 important questions before ever leaving someone at an assisted living facility.
Who's here? Why are you so inexpensive? And how long have you been doing this, and what's your credentials?
For her part, Ford feels her family was misled, but says most of the affected residents don't have someone advocating for them.
He took advantage of the situation, and now it's going to stop.
St. Pete Police and DCF say they continue to investigate, but as of right now, no new charges for Anderson. In St. Pete, Adam Weiner, ABC Action News.
Just driving through this neighborhood, you can see a lot of abandoned lots that are sort of filled with solid waste.
The road to redevelopment around USF is filled with problems below the surface.
We're talking about chemical pollutants, lead and arsenic and hydrocarbons that are buried in the soil and in sediments.
Dr. Christian Wells is leading the charge to clean up these abandoned, potentially polluted properties called brownfields. He says there's a lot of them in this area.
The area is surrounded by businesses, some of which produce petroleum hydrocarbons like auto body repair shops and gas stations and dry cleaners and so forth.
Dr. Wells recently won grant money from the EPA to study the problem, and for help targeting exactly which properties to start fixing first, he's teamed with a community nonprofit group.
We want anybody to be able to look at any property in the university area and say, that is a great location for me to raise my family.
But tonight we're learning she may not be eligible for the entire 6-figure Crime Stoppers reward that we've been telling you about for weeks now. Our Adam Weiner is live in Ybor City to show us how those who donated to the reward are now making sure she still gets some of that money. Adam?
Good evening there. Well, Crime Stoppers of Tampa Bay is telling me, yes, this McDonald's manager, she did the right thing, but because she didn't call their hotline, she's technically not eligible for their $5,000 reward. Thankfully, she is still eligible for a hefty payday. An emotional Richard Gonsmart today.
She doesn't look at herself as a hero.
Baffled by the humbleness of one brave citizen.
How do you not look at yourself as a hero? You take this monster off the street. She's a hero in my eyes.
Gonsmart wasn't sure if she'd get all the money from Crime Stoppers.
I want to give her a reward.
So we walked down the block from Columbia's restaurant in Ybor to the McDonald's himself to hand deliver a $9,000 check to the employee who tipped off the police.
No strings attached to what I told. I didn't expect anything in return, and I'm hoping Crime Stoppers is not upset with me because that was my pledge, and that's the way I do things.
Crime Stoppers says it's up to each donator to decide how they handle their own money, and that means ATF, the FBI, FDLE, and the police organization Rise Tampa are going to decide for themselves if the employee should get their promised amount.
Very humble, very, very shy.
Gonsmart picked $9,000 because it helped get the grand total to 6 figures.
When you get that $100,000. I was hoping that one of his friends would turn him in.
Godsmore says he understands why Crime Stoppers follows the rules they do, but hopes the McDonald's employee does get whatever money other agencies think she deserves.
We're proud that we did it. So isn't that work? I mean, I can go to sleep knowing I'm doing my best to help make the city safe.
Now, the woman who would be eligible in all this is the general manager of this McDonald's right here in Ybor. Right now, here's what we've got. $5,000 from Crime Stoppers she is not eligible for, but for that other $105,000 she is. Jane Castor, of course, the former police chief here in Tampa, she is now runs that organization, Rise Tampa. She says she believes this woman most definitely deserves that money. The current mayor believes that as well, and philanthropist David Straw is weighing in, saying that he believes she deserves it, but he's going to wait to see what some of the local law enforcement agencies do.
Thank you.
Hot breakfast, hot coffee.
I'm coming, sweetie.
For 32 years, Gwen Gallagher has helped people start their day. She's known for her laughs and hard work.
And we got it.
Gallagher is ready for change.
I'm just looking forward to not have to get up in the morning and come to work.
To make retirement happen, Gallagher committed to a frugal lifestyle.
I just saved. Just put away money and don't spend. Because I knew one day I wanted to sit down and enjoy my grandkids.
That's why she's committed to avoiding working into her 70s, no matter what.
If it run out, I keep on going. I will not work.
But Gallagher admits she never talked to an expert to help her plan her retirement.
And if they had come to us probably 10 years out from when they were about to retire, we could sit down with them and then we could make some adjustments or we could give them some suggestions.
Financial planner Lori Nadglowski tells me she's had some tough conversations over the years.
Here's everything that I've saved, I have enough, and here's how much money that I want to have in retirement. And we have to tell them, you really haven't saved enough.
That's why about 20% of Americans 65 and older are working today. 12% of Americans say they never expect to retire, including
You're welcome, Stephanie.
one of Gallagher's regulars.
There is no savings. Get real.